The last 24 hours have seen excitement return to Bitcoin. We've seen it surge from around 39,000 to trade so far overnight as high as 48,000. So what's behind this latest all-time high in the cryptocurrency, and can it go much further than this? Here's the move in Bitcoin on a daily chart. It's this move here, February the 8th, with the price the previous day closing around 38,860. The move yesterday and then overnight trading as high as about 48,200 almost. If you don't know what was behind the move, what was the catalyst here, I'll talk about it in a second. Then we'll come back onto this and look at things in more detail and see, well, actually, is this something of a false breakout for the price of Bitcoin through the old all-time highs? Or actually, do we really need to pay attention to this because it's the start of the next leg higher? Bitcoin does have a habit of when it breaks out, like if we go back here to December, breaking out above 20,000, it really does get a move on. We have perhaps an element of FOMO coming in, the fear of missing out, new momentum into the market. So what does this one mean? I'll talk a bit more about what's been driving it, why we've seen this surge, then we'll come back and look at this in more detail. Hello, I'm David Jones from Capital.com, and I thought given the move, we should do an update on Bitcoin. So as usual in this video, I'll talk about why it's moved, just in case you didn't know, what we can expect for it next, and we'll go back onto the platform, look at it in more detail, and see where the trading opportunity might be. As usual, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, if you could click on subscribe, it helps support the channel. Plus, of course, we now do regular live streams on a Friday afternoon UK time at 2:30, where we look at the usual markets plus some others as well. They're proving to be really popular. If you can't make it, you can always watch the recording. But if you click on subscribe and click the alarm bell notification thing, the bell there, you'll get notified whenever we go live on YouTube. Right, let's catch up with Bitcoin and see what we might expect next. So in the last 24 hours, we've seen Bitcoin yet again set fresh all-time highs. The last all-time highs were around $42,000, but we've seen it push out and trade above $48,000 so far. It's sold off a little bit since then, but nothing too drastic. And the reason behind the rise? Well, there has been a regulatory filing, a stock market filing from Tesla, of course, the electric car company, Elon Musk's business. They made a filing saying they have invested $1.5 billion into Bitcoin. They're saying the reason behind this, it's part of what they're saying is a broad investment strategy designed for a couple of things. I think like most investment strategies, to diversify their risk and try and get a better return on their cash. And they see Bitcoin as being part of that. It's led to speculation that maybe at some point in the future, what they're saying, they may start accepting Bitcoin as payment for their cars. At the moment, given where Bitcoin is trading, I think one Bitcoin would buy just about buy one Tesla. Not surprising, this has caused quite a bit of excitement. And you could argue that it's another step along the way of Bitcoin being seen as more of a mainstream currency or asset, whatever you want to call it, and a way of actually spending it in the real world. Personally, I think it's more to do with maybe the seal of approval from Elon Musk. You know, he has been active in recent weeks, tweeting about the likes of GameStop, for example. So I think this Tesla move was always going to cause excitement in the price of Bitcoin. The question is, can it continue higher from here? What it may also do, we know that Tesla is now this massive company. It may make other companies take note of Tesla's move of investing at least part of its cash in crypto, in Bitcoin. Perhaps we'll see it happen with other larger companies as well. It's certainly an interesting development. But I think from a trading and investing point of view, is the latest all-time high the sign of further gains to come? Or is it just going to end up being something of a short-term spike on the Tesla excitement and we go back to perhaps the more sideways trading of recent weeks? Let's talk about the levels to watch. Then we'll jump back onto the platform and look at it in more detail. So the latest all-time high is the obvious intermediate hurdle, let's call it. That's up around 48,200. I think after that, we're just picking off psychological levels. 50,000 is an obvious one, obvious big round number for Bitcoin to surpass. On the downside, various levels left on the way up. I think the most obvious one, if we did see further weakness from where we're trading now for Bitcoin, watch what happens if it gets near $42,000. That was the old all-time high before we surged higher on this Tesla news. But let's put some color on these numbers. Let's take a look on the platform, take a look at Bitcoin in a bit more detail. I think it's always tempting to look at Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as something of a special case when it comes to market analysis. But I don't really do it that way. I think we've got to take the view that it's the same as anything else. It goes up, it goes down, it goes sideways. It may go up and down in percentage terms much more on a short to medium term basis than other markets, but it's the actions of buyers and sellers that drive Bitcoin. And you know, if you've watched this channel for some time, a big fan of following trends. So whenever we look at Bitcoin at the moment, I pick up on the trend from around October last year. So we're about 5 months, almost 5 months into this trend. Great trend in place, accelerated away from the middle of December, pushed up those all-time highs initially in January, just shy of 42,000. Then it all got a bit boring, but the 28 to 30,000 area had been good support for Bitcoin. And once again, we've seen it surge higher. The trend at the moment is coming in. If we pick it up, it's coming in around 24.5, 25,000. It's not too relevant with Bitcoin trading at the time of recording around 46,000. But, even if we did get a deeper pullback from these levels, and we do get deep pullbacks on Bitcoin from time to time, it still looks like a buying opportunity. So from a longer term point of view, if this current surge proved to be short-lived, I'd still be looking to be a buyer if we see it knock back to the mid-30s. But again, let's focus on the short term to see where the opportunity is now. I think if we're looking at RSIs, like I often say, in strong trending markets, and there are lots at the moment, not just in cryptocurrencies, the problem with overbought, oversold indicators like RSI is they will go to an extreme too quickly. Like in here, mid to December, the RSI stayed pretty much overbought, saying the market's gone too far, from around 21,000 all the way up to nearly 42,000. So I don't think RSI adds too much in a strong trending market like this. I think what we've got to focus on is price action. So what I want to look at is what's happened this year with Bitcoin to try and figure out where might be a good place to buy. Do we just jump in now and buy? I want to be a buyer because the trend is up. So let's flip this over to an hourly chart and take a look at a slightly shorter term view. So we're on the hourly chart now. There's the old all-time high, just shy of 42,000, second week of January. And you can see how good the support zone from 28 to 30,000 had been right up till the end of January. We did see the market sell off quite heavily after that initial all-time high, dropping back about 30%. But whenever we saw it dip below 30,000, it didn't stay there for very long. And then, of course, because of the filing from Tesla, we've seen it break out and move a lot higher, move $6,000 through that old all-time high. So for me now, I want to be a buyer if we see any weakness. If we had some weakness back down towards the mid-30s, great opportunity. But maybe we won't get that. So let's focus on what's been going on since the 27th of January. I want to pick up on a trend here. So let's plot that. So here's our trend from the 27th of Jan. We've got a few touches on that trend line, the latest of which came in on the 7th of February. So for me, at the moment, that's the trend to watch. If I'm looking for an entry point in Bitcoin, if we did get a steeper sell-off, I'll be watching to see what happened if we do sell off from here. We've got that trend line coming in. Let's call it 38,500 at the moment, down at those levels. So again, if we saw the market sell off towards the low 40,000s, it does look like a good opportunity. And I think for me, it's only if we start to break below this trend and perhaps take out the lows, the 4th of February lows around 36,000, would I be concerned this sharper trend is under some pressure and it's time to look for a buying opportunity a bit further down. So for me at the moment, the trend is still up. I want to be a buyer on dips. But let's say we don't even get a dip. What's an even more aggressive stop loss and entry point for what we're doing now? Let's zoom things in. So I very rarely look hardly ever look at 5-minute charts on these videos. But given the volatility and given the fact this is all played out in the last 24 hours, I thought, well, let's take a look now. So if we thought, actually, this is the start of another big move in Bitcoin, if I was a buyer now at 46,650, where it's trading at the time of recording, the closest I would want my stop, the other side of what are still very short-term lows, only formed in the last hour or so, ahead of 45,500, which also ties up quite well with the lows in the early hours of the morning of Tuesday of this week, ahead of 45.5. So if I was a buyer here, I'd be having stops the other side of these recent lows. That's the closest I'd want it. Perhaps a better place for the stop. You can see the initial surge on February the 8th. The market goes sideways and sells off a bit and then moves higher still. So perhaps the better place for a stop, to give it a bit more wiggle room, is down around 42,000, which also coincides with the old highs. It's only, 10% away from where the market is trading now. And, in volatility terms, when Bitcoin starts moving, 10% is not that big a stop to have. So I think we've got some interesting levels there for short-term traders for stops. If you wanted to do nothing and just wait to see if this plays out, I suppose the other way of trading this is to be a buyer if it breaks out to fresh all-time highs again. I do think that 50,000 might end up being a problem, but I think if we break 50,000, we could well see another rocket under Bitcoin. So it's been a really interesting 24 hours. If we go back to the longer-term view, then that trend from October is still up. We've set all-time highs just today. By definition, a market hitting all-time highs is a strong market. I'd want to be a buyer. It's just whether I buy now, and I've got a few places to place my stop on the short-term chart. Do I wait for a breakout to all-time highs again, or do I wait for a deeper sell-off? Either way, I think medium-term, it's not too over-optimistic to expect Bitcoin to move higher still. That's it for this update on Bitcoin. Never a dull moment. But for me, David Jones and Capital.com, we'll leave things there. Good luck with your trading. For more trading videos just like this, please subscribe to our channel.